In the same sense that like being involved with people 5 days a week for 6 months could like start to be like, this is starting to wear me out. Being alone 3-4 days a week for 6 months, trying to work and stay focused, like you can have challenges with that. You have to be like disciplined about stuff like that sometimes.
Wiggity, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Valor Coffee Podcast. On this episode, we sit down with Sam Smith, not the music artist, but our friend and coworker. He is our lead roastery manager, and we get to talk to him about his transition from working in a cafe, being a barista, to starting to lead out in our roastery warehouse space and what that transition's been like for him. We also get to ask him a bunch of questions about dialing in roast, onboarding coffees, tweaking coffees, and what he's looking for. We also hop on the hype train and try a coffee from Jimmy Butler's Big Face Coffee, a washed Burundi that was super exciting to taste and enjoy. That coffee review segment is going to be at the end of the program this week, so stay tuned for that. As always, if you enjoy the show, please rate, review, like, subscribe, and just share it with anyone that you think would be blessed by it. Before we move on, I want to shout out our coffee course community that we're building. There should be a link below that will allow you to sign up for news and updates as that begins to build. But we're going to have resources on there that will help just in general with coffee training, coffee knowledge, how to start a coffee cart, how to start a cafe, how to manage and run your cafe. We just want to share and build up the coffee community with what we've learned and highlight other awesome people in the industry doing great work. We hope you enjoy the show.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers.
Kampai.
Cheers.
Sam, welcome.
Thank you.
We're sitting here with lead roaster himself, Samuel Dawson
There
Smith.
it is.
Yeah.
You can edit out the pause.
You know I will.
Samuel Dawson Smith.
So, Sam, let's just open up this podcast really quickly by who do you think you are?
And what gives you the right?
Who do you think you are? I am.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
That about wraps it up.
Sam has been with us for 2.5 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years.
2 and some change.
Yeah. And heck, you're just making your way up, aren't you? You're vying for everybody's job.
He's like
All right.
Josh Groban, you raised me up. You know what I mean?
I love that
This guy's
song.
going Groban on us
Song
right now.
moves me.
So we're just going to have a nice little conversation with Sam, and I'm excited.
I'm
Yeah,
excited.
you
more of
guys
a sit
excited?
down. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sit down. It's a conversation. But we're drinking some crazy coffee this morning.
Shaka.
And
The packaging is crazy, at least.
The packaging at the
True.
very least is crazy. We're sitting here with a coffee from Jimmy Butler's own. Jimmy Butler owns.
Who's Butler?
That's also
owns?
true. Jimmy Butler owns Jimmy Butler's own Big Face Coffee.
Yeah.
More around there.
That's good.
And I'm trying to think of when we first heard of this.
I think it just hit coffee headlines.
Yeah.
So the COVID kind of MBA bubble, he started making coffee. Big Face
Yes.
was born.
I think that was the story. There was so the NBA during 2020 played their playoffs at Disney World
So cool.
in a bubble where them and their families were not allowed to leave, so no one would go get COVID. And
Go get it.
and
You'll find it if it's looking
they didn't have any. Disney World doesn't have, at least that part doesn't have good coffee. Heck, I would say none of Disney World has third wave coffee.
Whoa.
But I've got to tread lightly when talking about Disney World's coffee.
Shots fired.
And Jimmy brought all of his own coffee set up, and he was selling pour-overs out of his room to the other players for like $20 a pop. And
He was low on cash.
from that, Big Face was
He's
born.
just an entrepreneur.
Which really makes me think. And I've seen this a little bit with some coffee influencers who are getting into the coffee game. That's such a good angle to take, in my opinion.
What specifically?
If you have the chops to do it and you're going to start a side hustle, make your side hustle be growing an influence on social media or an influence of whatever kind. Because then you have this path to where you grow an audience and then you link off and you say, hey, I'm starting a company. And because especially, in that progress, as you're coming up with your audience that you're building, you can be monetizing that through ad deals or whatever, and then you create this product that you can sell, and you transfer a lot of your existing following to that instantly.
You're saying Jimmy Butler's initial audience was because of basketball?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now that he's introducing a lot of people to specialty coffee who previously were just into basketball, which is awesome. I think that's really cool. I know someone might roast us in the comments, and there might be some sort of scandal that I don't know about or something, but I don't know about it. So
it doesn't exist.
Basketball is my favorite sport. I love the way they dribble up and down the court. Anybody want to name that movie? Name that song?
You guys getting the pomelo on this this coffee or the gooseberry? Or
Honestly, I think, is a pomelo a grapefruit?
I thought it was grapefruit.
Because
Jason.
I didn't look at this. I was drinking the coffee and I said, grapefruit.
Dude,
So
happy
I
for
guess
you.
I am getting the pomelo, Ross.
But we are going to talk about this coffee and give it a score a little more at the end of the podcast. So stick around for that if you want to hear all those juicy details.
Yeah.
In lieu of a coffee Q&A moment here, we need to address something kind of on an emergency level.
And the thumbnail's going to be like an apology. But it's not really
Let's
an apology.
just say,
It's just us.
let me hold this. We ruffled some feathers. Was it a couple weeks back?
Yeah, I would say so.
Riley himself went on an absolute tirade around the lifespan, the life journey of an espresso shot. And we just want to kind of check back in with you.
Am I okay?
Are you okay? Is your family okay?
Do you want to issue any apologies or change your mind?
Well, I haven't slept.
Or change your address? You're worried
weeks.
people are going to start coming after you.
I do not want to issue an apology. I'm okay. And I think it's really funny and really awesome that reel has the best performance of anything Valor has ever published.
Okay. But Riley, what do you say to the people who say, you're a liar?
Right.
Man, I would say, no, I'm not. Is that okay?
Do we need to
right,
pull
fair
this
enough.
up and break it down?
No, we don't. So,
Are you sure about that?
yeah. So if you haven't seen the reel, but maybe you listened to the episode a couple weeks ago, we were discussing, first of all, the topic wasn't extraction and oxidation. The topic was bar flow efficiency. And the entire point was that to have an efficient bar flow, you need to get ahead on shots because that is the thing that takes really the most time.
bottlenecks,
So to avoid the bottleneck, because the latte is the economic backbone of a cafe, that's the funny part is that some people were commenting and telling me that it wasn't. And I'm like, okay, well, you're telling me that your cafe doesn't
Right,
make
he's out
any
there.
money. Sorry. Anyways.
Wrong.
The point was that you need to get ahead on your shots because regardless of continued oxidation and the coffee, there are just so many funny comments. Someone was like, it ends up sour and bitter. And I'm like, okay.
Help me understand that.
Regardless of any of that, if you're putting it into a mocha, it doesn't freaking matter.
That just happened.
Have you ever made a mocha with an old shot and a new shot? It doesn't matter. It's going to be in a 16-ounce to-go cup. You're going to be okay.
And it's going to be
Again,
awesome.
I don't want to sit down and get a sparkling water and an old espresso. No one wants that. And we're not going to give that. It's going to be fresh.
Yeah.
And we obviously said that in the reel. But anyways.
You were just saying pull your shots ahead of time because most of them are going in lattes. And if
Yes.
they're not going in lattes, then pull a fresh one.
Exactly.
Yep.
And this isn't like go 8, 10 ahead. We're just talking about 2, max 4.
Dude, I'm saying
I mean, if it's like
if there's a
1
long
p.m.
line
on a
out the
Saturday
door,
and there's 20 people, yeah, it's like
rip
you're
'em.
just cranking shots, I feel like.
Yeah, but just in reality, like they're going to get used even faster than like you can't get that far ahead.
Yeah.
Unless a lot of matcha lovers come in, and we understand that. Shout out to the matcha community. We see you guys.
all the matcha community listening to the Valor Coffee podcast.
Hey, they're there. They're out there, man. They're out there.
But anyways, just thought it'd be funny to address. I got a lot of people telling me that I'm intentionally misleading people for some gain.
At least he finally
I don't know.
addresses
Yeah,
it.
we're just hoping that other
I
coffee
get
shops-
money for every old espresso served. Did you guys know that?
Man, jeez, you must be making a lot of money off Valor.
Yeah.
Wow. And what's funny is that this is coming from you, the guy who's like always trying to buy and innovate everything that we do to make coffee more excellent.
Yeah,
I know he puts the T in DST,
forcing
you know what
people
I'm
to
saying?
use the Barista Hustle auto comb behind the bar.
And we're enjoying it. It's awesome.
Awesome.
A lot longer of a lifespan than
The Moonraker.
the Moonraker.
Yeah, the Moonraker's out, guys. It's
Yeah.
out.
I'm just glad you've acknowledged
R.I.P.
everything that happened,
Yeah.
and I'm glad we have a path forward,
And that I apologized.
and
Yeah.
that you apologize for
And
intentionally
completely
misleading.
100% owned everything.
Yeah. So
Hey, what do you say we move on out?
Okay.
Move on up and move on out.
All right. So, Sam, as someone who came from working behind the bar for some years, right?
18 years,
Yeah.
man.
Like 18, 19 years?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Like 4
4 or
Ish.
5 or
4 or
something.
5, yeah.
I have to know. So, barista, I'll preface with this, okay? I'm getting choked up. We've had Sam on the program before, and I'm sure we delved
Dove
Doved is
into your
right.
story in that one. So we're not going to, who cares? We're not going to go too far on that.
Previous episode tagged below, guys.
Yeah, totally. And
for sure.
But you worked behind the bar. Then we hired you at Valor. You worked behind the bar somewhere else. We hired you at Valor, and you were part-time packaging and fulfillment, and then part-time working behind the bar. And then did you go straight from that point? Did you ever do all packaging and fulfillment, like, but not roast?
We didn't have anything to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I worked. It was like by the end of it, I was just working 1 day a week at the cafe, and I was doing like packaging, syrups, kegs. the
But yeah,
other
that was
4
like
days.
right at the time where we were starting the cold brew.
Yeah, you rolled
Yeah.
out our cold brew program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got a lot of experience with cold brew.
Dude, shout out to
Yes.
the Java sock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you remember how we did that?
Dude, how I will remember for the rest of my life how we did that. Yeah. I literally explained it to Luke the other day. Like, dude, this is what I used to have to do. And I was like, also one time Ross broke that EK over there, so I would have to go to the cafe.
He'd load up his Camry with buckets of coffee, drive to the
45
cafe, grind
45 pounds of coffee.
it, come back.
You sweated out a lot for us, Sam. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
it's
you,
pretty funny.
Sam.
That's something.
Made
But
it through a lot of podcasts.
we have had many different iterations of our cold brew. So maybe, not even maybe, heck, we're going to give some good breakdowns on how you can start a cold brew program in our course community.
Oh my gosh, Riley.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so if you want to sign up for details on that, find at the top of the description below. Had a good bit of signups.
Like
I'm not even lying.
3,
like,
4.
Like 3, 4, 5.
Above one.
Now you have to say I'm not even lying for every other time you say.
Yeah, we don't know when you're misleading
Or I
us.
would be lying.
Yeah.
So, working your way into packaging and fulfillment, and then eventually working your way on up to roaster. I think that is the trajectory that a lot of baristas plan to take as their career path forward. Someone's on back there.
Espresso maker.
And I think that's the career path that a lot of baristas plan as their path forward to continue working in the industry and making a better wage, transitioning to salary, etc.
A little Monday to Friday action.
Yeah, Monday to Friday. How's that shift been for you? You've been in it for a hot minute now. So, is it what you expected it to be? Is being a roaster what you expected it to be? And just to be clear, your title here isn't lead roaster. What's your title?
Dude, like 5 things.
Yeah, I think that your title
warehouse
is
manager.
Yeah, it's like roasting operations and warehouse
director associate.
Oh, I'm the director.
Where's warehouse? Dude, Rowd. You're the Rowd.
And
lead Rowd.
So to be clear, you maintain this facility with the help of your dear friends, Luke and Blake.
Indeed.
Is there anything you want to say to them real quick?
You guys are awesome. Couldn't do it without you.
You purchase, cup, sample roast, all green coffee.
Yeah.
And then you order it and you production roast it.
Mm-hmm.
You quality control our product, including some at the cafe, but especially here on the cupping table 2 times a week.
Yeah.
So that's a lot in one role. And that is kind of a testament to, being a small company, is that another bigger company might have 3 people doing what you do, which is awesome. So with all that being said, what's it like being a roaster? And is it what you expected it to be?
Yeah, it is. So, I feel like I'm a roaster but I don't feel like that is my job. I'm not like when someone's like, hey, what do you do? I'm not like, I roast coffee, because it's not really what I do. It's probably like not even half of a work week. But roasting is how I thought it would be. It's more fun for me in the way that my brain works, I think, because it's a little more like solo work, and it's like cupping coffees, thinking about what they taste like, thinking about how I want to roast them, paying attention to how to roast them. It's like all kind of, I just think about it a lot, and I taste it, and I think, and I can kind of just like get in this work zone and do that. And I enjoy that type of work over the type of work that you're commonly, doing at a cafe. But also just, I was going to touch on the nature of a small company thing. It is what I expected here, because you guys are pretty clear with how, like, what my role is and how it's developed. And it's kind of like growing this, like as this grows, I am coming up with systems and protocols and like building out the structure that will be here, which is a way more like engaging long-term challenge than working at a cafe for me. So that stuff is fun. I don't get to spend like a whole lot of time doing that, but just like building something out is something I've never really tried to do before. So that's fun.
Just to stay on that a little bit, when you first got into coffee, did you get into it primarily for the coffee side or the hospitality and service side?
Or as a job?
Or for the power?
I mean, you could have got any job, but like specifically, what drove you to that industry?
You gonna take that?
No.
You gonna take
that industry? Was it more the like, I want to make coffee, I'm passionate about coffee, it's interesting, the machines seem cool, I want to learn how to pour latte art and like educate people? Or is it like, I am a people person and I want to serve people with hospitality and kindness?
It's honestly hard to remember, but I think it was probably a bit of both. It might have been, I think where my headspace was at when I got my first job in coffee was like, my friends work there. I do like people. Coffee seems cool. and you guys had been into coffee, and like we had talked about it, and I had been like as a hobby kind of into good coffee, and was like, it would be cool to learn how to make good coffee. So I was interested from that aspect too. Like the work would be fun, but also just like dealing with people was probably primarily.
Quick touch of backstory there. Ross, Sam, and myself went to high school together. We were in chamber choir.
That's right.
And
Tenor?
Yeah.
tenor, baritone, bass.
Yeah.
All right.
We could do a little number for you right now if you want.
Ethan, you got
I can be your soprano.
Soprano. It's now
like
soprano.
alto tenor?
Ethan's soprano.
Yeah, I didn't go to high school with you guys, so
So
let's keep it moving.
And then our Ross and I, our second coffee job was Sam came and worked there with us.
Yo, Sam, keep up, bro.
Right.
Yeah.
So the reason I bring
that's
that up is you're talking about the journey of coffee people and how they start in the cafe and they're like, I want to move up. I want to move upwards to being a roaster. And my point with that is I feel like a lot of people get into the coffee industry not primarily because they are people, but because they want to make coffee.
Yeah.
Like the reason I say that is because I have talked to so many people that apply at Valor and they're applying for their first coffee job or this is their second or third coffee job. And I asked them why they're in the coffee industry. And they were like, I just was like fascinated with coffee and I wanted to learn how to make it. But I feel like when people get into the coffee industry solely for the interest of making coffee, they burn out because the people side of the coffee industry overtakes the coffee side of the coffee industry.
Yeah.
When you're behind the bar 5 days a week and you're just serving people all the time.
Yeah.
Especially in our model where like the amount of time that you're actually on Expo making drinks is like 2 hours of your 8-hour shift. So you're just around people and that makes sense why people want to move towards like a warehouse job.
Yeah.
Because they can like stand around a cupping table and talk about the nuance of, you know, the ROR of their last roast, as opposed to like asking someone that they don't relate with at all how their day was over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, for you, I remember that transition of like, we hadn't taken very many people from the cafe and brought them to the roastery, but we knew that it was such a different job, even though it's in the same company, even though it's we're still dealing with coffee. The people and the hospitality and the service side of the coffee shop are like the main highlight. Like that's what you think of when you think of a coffee shop. Here, I think of like project-oriented work, task-oriented work, and solitude, honestly, and like repetitive, focused work. Like that's like the opposite of a cafe.
Yeah.
You know, how was that shift? How was that shift from like going from? I remember us talking about that in your interview of interviewing here. We talked about how you think you'll adjust to a shift-oriented work, which is at a cafe. You're just on a shift with people all day, to a project and task-oriented, more, you're just alone here sometimes.
I think I prefer it a bit. I think I prefer it, but it comes with its own sets of like challenges and downsides, like being alone in the same sense that like being involved with people 5 days a week for 6 months could like start to be like, this is starting to wear me out. Being alone 3-4 days a week for 6 months, trying to work and stay focused, like you can have challenges with that. It's easier. You have to be like disciplined about stuff like that sometimes. But I feel like the transition was great for me. That was like specifically what your question was, right? I enjoyed working on bar and when I was there and stuff, but it did just drain me a lot, like my social battery. Being able to be here, I feel like I am just a more like mellow person. And there's this aspect of like turning it up when you're on bar at Valor, like specifically. And it's really fun that happens. And so leaning into that is great. But I like the task, the project oriented. I like thinking about my day. I like having, instead of like a shift clocking into, I like having things that I build incremental progress to. I don't know. It's more fun because I think it's just like more responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it's like I single-handedly have a much more influential impact on the company, which makes it like more engaging because the stakes are higher, I guess.
How have you been able to grow the discipline it takes to often work by yourself? Like you and the others, people who work here, including us as owners, have a lot of autonomy in our schedule. So how do you, especially people who are coming from working behind the bar, where a lot of things might be a task list that they have to do for the day, and then obviously just taking care of guests and brewing good coffee, to developing projects? Because that's the thing. It's like not only are you doing projects that we hand you, but you're also developing projects yourself because that's a part of your role. So how have you managed to get on top of that transition? And was it a transition, or did it just come natural?
It was definitely a transition. The part of it all being projects and tasks adds like a different element of stress. Like there's a stress of being in a rush at a cafe, and it's completely different than feeling like 4 days worth of tasks behind on a Thursday, and you're like, I'm screwed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like learning to handle those emotions is a different animal, and I worked with that for a while. But really the thing that helps with the transition is just kind of imposing structure on the work week. It's like, and we just had a lot of conversations about this over the course of months of just like use Todoist, use Notion, organize things like this. And it's like the things that I have to do every week, I put in one place and I see them all the time and I'm reminded of them. Longer term projects, you just put timelines on, and then you put in structure of like, at this time, I'm going to review these things. I'm going to look ahead at this time on this day in the week. And then I also just know the reality in the back of my head of like, if I don't do these things that are on this schedule, I will be behind in a week or two. And so there is something to do, and I'm not having to like think of what I need to be doing next often. Because like when I do that, it's easier to be like distracted, type of deal. So just structure probably is the easiest way.
Mm.
We got to take a more serious note here for a second. What coffee are you the most proud of right now? And why?
And who do you think you are?
Dude, I'm probably the most proud of the Wash Ethiopia we have. It's on the way out. That's probably the coffee I'm the most proud of because it is without a shadow of a doubt, winner of the most improved award, superlative.
Facts.
What does it mean to improve a coffee from a roasting perspective?
It means it doesn't taste bad and it tastes good now.
Help me understand what you mean.
Well, it's such a big highlight on you, right?
Yeah.
Because that makes sense why you're proud of it, because the green coffee didn't change. I mean, it got older, but not by that much. And so you start it, and let me finish. Oh man, you profile the coffee, you figure out, and we'll get to this later, but you figure out how you want to roast it, and then you try to roast it that way. You're not getting the results you want necessarily, and then you just keep tweaking over time.
Yeah. Hey, Ross, I'm going to stop you right there. I think that it would be a really good melding of some things, too.
Can we just take a melding moment?
Yeah, we're going to have a melding moment where why don't you talk to us about how you onboard a coffee in the frame of that Ethiopia, and we can see one, how you onboard it, and two, how you took that coffee from
Zero to hero.
from rags to riches.
Do you want to go from like when I order samples from?
Take us back to the beginning.
Take us to like when you. Okay,
You got to be careful telling me that. Last
all
time
right.
you said that when I was on here, I started in high school.
All right, so you woke up. Go. What day
So I order samples and I sample roast coffees and cup them frequently. It's like every week I am ordering and receiving and roasting and trying samples.
As a potential replacement for existing menu slots.
Yes.
Cool. I didn't know. I was just wondering.
Typically,
asking for a friend.
typically that's exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes I'm looking ahead for like blends and stuff, not necessarily replacing a menu slot. Or I'm thinking about, yeah, those are basically the only two reasons. And so I received the samples. I received Ethiopia Torre from the importer. Sample roast it, cup it, among other coffees, like 8 coffees. It was the one that I liked the most. I follow up with the people I want to buy it from, the company I'm buying it from, order it, and
Can I just stop you right there?
yeah.
What is sample roasting, and how do you do it? And what is the cupping process with sample roasting like?
Okay. Sample roasting is basically just a way for like coffee importing companies to let roasters try the coffees they have offering in a not expensive way. So it's like we get samples for free when we order them from a company. It's like 100 grams or 150 grams most of the time. Sometimes it's like 50. And I have a little roasting machine. Is it Ikawa?
Yeah, Ikawa.
Ikawa.
Little electric
Ikawa.
sample roaster.
Affiliate
Yeah,
link.
That's all it
below.
does.
All it
Sample
does,
roast.
it's like a 1-button thing. Technically it has 2 buttons, but one is just a fan. And it
you
roasts 50-gram samples.
Yeah, you use your phone and you can load up and change profiles. Full transparency, we have had the same profile running on it for
Years.
years.
If it works, huh?
It's the Tim Wendelboe profile. And I just went through and tried like all the profiles when we first got it and just found the one that I thought highlighted the coffee specifically. So like pretty light, because I was doing it in
Nordic
a
roast.
sample roast mindset. You could, change the profile and try to make it more like a production roast, and that could be helpful. And we've kind of talked about potentially doing that, but we haven't really done it yet. So
Yeah, it's something that's on my mind, but I haven't had time to like look super into it, honestly.
So when you're cupping sample roasts, what is there a different mindset with that versus when you're cupping our production roasts?
For sure. Yes. So with sample roast, I don't know if this is technically a concept or if it has a title or whatever, but in my mind, I just call it like cupping around like a sample roast, like cupping around the roast of, I can know that if I get an Ethiopian natural and I sample roast it, that profile is darker than I will roast it. And it's not like much darker, but it's a little bit. And so if the coffee tastes like still pretty fruity, like Workasakaro sample roasted is like a super mid production roast is what it tastes like. And when I nail a production roast, it tastes like actual grapes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that is in my mind, just knowing that. But when I'm cupping our production roast, I'm just critiquing my roast. That's like what I'm thinking about is what about this don't I like? What do I wish tasted differently about this? In kind of like a perfectionist way. It's not like super pressure. I'm never like expecting it to be perfect and then I'm disappointed, but I am always like, what about this is imperfect? Mm-hmm. And so sample roast, I'm tasting it. I'm like, do I like this? Could it be as good or better than what's on the menu now? Yes or no? If yes, is the price fair? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
So do you remember what the sample roast of the Torre was like and what you
Yeah, it was
saw
great.
in it?
It tasted like that like blueberry type sweet thing. It was muted. It was like subtle.
That would be an example of where the sample roast was darker than what the production roast would end up being.
Yeah. But the coffee was really clean. It had like really nice black tea notes, and it had like this like blueberry, almost like a natural like flavor note, like a natural process at the front end of it. And I was like, this coffee's awesome. And so I bought it. Does that answer that question?
Yeah.
Okay, so I buy it. It gets here. I do a production roast. And I could honestly find the curve from the first production roast, but it has to have just like been green, like roasted way too quickly.
Like it came out green.
It just tasted like grass.
White coffee. That's what they call it.
Crap.
It just tasted on the cupping table after roasting. It tasted like grass, and I was like,
Because when you get that coffee, you roast it on the reference of a similar coffee from before. Yeah.
yeah. So back to the full process. It's like I receive the coffee, I onboard it. Basically, I do a cost analysis on a shared spreadsheet. I get flavor notes for our labels for the boxes that it's going to be on. I make a profile in Cropster, the roasting software, and that involves a few steps or whatever. And part of making a profile for coffee is you can use put a reference roast on it, which is just advised like basically always. And if I've never had a coffee before, usually if I'm buying a coffee and it's like a second year that I've had it, I'll use last year's reference roast, or I'll just use the reference roast on the profile. If it's a new profile, I try to get the most similar coffee based on like process and then origin.
Mm-hmm. So if it was like a Ethiopia Yerg, you'd try to find another Ethiopia Yerg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the flavor notes are on Torre?
No.
What's that like, getting flavor notes? You know, like I feel like that's an interesting thing to do whenever the production roast is still in development stage.
Yeah.
You're trying to get the flavor notes for what this coffee will be for the rest of its time. And of course you can change it if you want to. But do you like getting flavor notes? Is that one of the things you enjoy doing, or is it not?
I do like it. It's something that I need to...
Golden raisin juniper citrusy sweet, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you.
I do like it. It's a muscle I want to work more. When I'm getting notes for stuff, I try to think of like... When I'm thinking of like, I want a note that's going on the label, I try to pick like the three most obvious things to me. Mm-hmm. Or like... two obvious ones and maybe one that was like subtle but I really liked or something.
Like spooky stories.
Yeah,
Hayride?
exactly. And I try to think of like way more than I need for the box. I try to think of like 4, 5, 6,
7.
I don't know if I can get
Do you ever
7.
use the flavor wheel?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So we can continue on what the rollout of coffees looks like, but something that stuck out is you were saying you're ordering coffees from a company, and I would like for you to touch on maybe the misconception of what purchasing green coffee looks like and direct trade relationships.
I don't know exactly what you're asking.
Hey, Sam, do you think that you can talk about the misconception of direct trade for smaller coffee roasters and how small coffee roasters actually order their coffee?
Yeah, I can explain how small coffee roasters order their coffee. There are companies that their whole purpose is to source coffees and then import them into the United States to then sell them to smaller roasters. And they are called coffee importers. And they sell a variety of coffees. They also, like, importers vary in size or whatever. Like, some people have, a dozen or whatever options. Some companies have hundreds And you basically, from the way a small roaster like Valor gets their coffee is...
We're not that small. I mean, we're
Calm down, Ross. We're small.
just kidding. We're small.
we work with these companies, and so we let them source the coffees from these various countries. And
Because they have better purchasing power.
yes, yeah, exactly. And then we buy it from them.
Yeah, so the reality of that model, which is interesting, is that they're often, especially more locally present importers. Let's just be real. All of our competitors are purchasing the same coffees as us.
Yep.
And that is something that we just have to navigate and be like, this is kind of just how it is.
Guatemala Islama, baby.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's this coffee, Guatemala Islama. And
Wait,
Dude.
no.
we don't look at things as like flat out competition, but it's just like if there's other roasters in our state, we're vying for the same business on like with wholesale. So whenever we plus Methodical plus East Pole plus Second State out in Charleston are all serving Guatemala Islama, it's like
We all got it from Balzac.
we all got it
Yeah.
from Balzac, and we just kind of have to be like, are we going to use this coffee again?
That's
Because
the thing, man. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
a lot of those that I just named are pushing more volume than us and probably have better leverage to now go to origin and develop direct trade relationships. But it is an interesting thing to have to consider that other people around you are probably going to have the same coffees.
Yeah. Well, for all those roasters, including us, you look at all of the different customers that they might have in a wholesale relationship and in an e-commerce relationship and in their own cafes.
Yeah.
Like every single category of customer that is consuming, let's say, Guatemala Islama, what percentage of them know what Islama is, first of all? Mm-hmm. What percentage of them know that different roasters can have the same coffee, even as a concept? And then what percentage of them know that one of the other roasters you listed have the same coffee? Like
Yeah.
5%?
Yeah, I mean-
3%?
Well, now probably 80, 85 because you spelled it all out.
I would
Spill the
say
beans.
that percentage vastly increases if you just take it from the pool of wholesale, or
Yeah,
even like wholesale
kinda.
and e-commerce. Because I would venture to say that a decent amount of people who are into high-end specialty coffee who have been to Valor's website have also been to Methodical's website and seen like, oh, they have the same coffee. And I'm not saying that's a huge deal, fortunately, because I don't think it is. But I'm just saying I would be lying if I said that those things didn't impact our purchasing decisions.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They do, for sure. My point is just like how much volume for a wholesale roaster, like a high-end roaster like Methodical or like us, is going to come from high-end specialty coffee shops.
Yeah.
Like, not that much.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the ones you think about because it's like, ooh, our coffee's really spotlighted here and we're really like on a deeper
Good
partnership.
marketing presence.
Yeah, especially a multi-roaster or someone who serves pour-overs and EK shots of single origin espresso and all that. But it definitely does affect our purchasing power. But at the same time, like specialty coffee roasters are becoming more of the norm now and not the exception. And so normal people drink it is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just that's the hard part about being small is that you want like exclusivity
It's okay.
sells. And when you look at because he's tall, it would be really dope to be like, we're the only people in the world that have this coffee.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think Big Face is going to have Guatemala Islama?
Yeah, exactly.
Forget about it.
Or
Forget about it.
all of Onyx's 20 menu offerings that I know some of them some other people might have, but
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I mean,
exactly. So
Yeah.
and it's just because of the
Smell
vast
my
amount of
coffee.
weight that you're pushing, and that is a reason to aim for growth, to be able to hit that level of being able to source coffees directly from a farm, go down there, pick your lots, and cup 60 coffees, pick the exact one, and then you're like, this coffee is from this farm, from this lot. Valor is the only company in the world that has this.
Yeah.
It's kind of cool because you're single-handedly supporting someone's whole business.
Yeah.
Hey, back to you in a second. I just feel like I have to say something now.
Please.
It's a good time for that.
Personally speaking, from a personal standpoint, I think it's funny when roasters have the same coffee and it makes me want to try them because we have the coffee. I'm like, ooh, what does theirs taste like?
We definitely did that at Second State when we were in Charleston.
That's right. That is absolutely right.
They had the same Kenya, right?
I think 3 of the coffees on their menu were the same as
Yes.
Yeah.
They have good taste.
So what were we talking about with Sam? Where did we leave off?
Well, you were talking about production roasting a new coffee and how you decide
Reference.
which reference to use. But once you do that
Reference.
and you taste that coffee, what are you looking for? Are you comparing it to the sample roast? Are you, like what are the things you're looking for? And are there different? Are there like recurring improvements that you always come back to? It's like whenever you have a new production roast, are you like, oh, this variable needs to be tweaked, and it's kind of universally evident through all the different offerings? Does that make sense?
I basically, when I'm first profiling a coffee, I put the reference to whatever's close enough. I roast it. I taste it. I'm thinking about roast, like flavors that the roast has imparted into the coffee. So I'm paying attention to things like how long was the browning phase, how long was the development phase compared to how long I wanted them both to be. If they were both long, or if the browning phase was long, then I expect it to taste roastier. I expect it to taste darker. I expect like a lot of those sugars to be more muted. If it was roasted short, it's going to taste green. I pay attention to those types of things. And I just decide, does it need to be developed more? Does it need to be developed less? Does it need to be longer? And then I roast it differently the next roast day, and then I cup it again. And that is basically, and it's like I'll try it, and it's kind of just like dialing in on a really slow scale type of vibe where it's like, I know the coffee, I know where it's from, I know how it's roasted. I can make a guess at the adjustment that needs to be made, and then I can taste it, and I can make another adjustment. And that is just like the biggest thing. Is just like I pretty much, since I've been roasting, maybe like the first 2-3 months I didn't do this, but since I started roasting, it was like I've been cupping almost every roast that I did of every coffee. And so
That's pretty cool.
you just get familiar with that, just cupping a lot. You notice what a roast defect tastes like. You notice what just like a green bean defect tastes like, and you can start to notice these things.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm thinking about when I'm profiling, when I'm like a new coffee and cupping it for the first time.
When you're dialing in that roast, you know, like all the different categories whenever you're doing like an SEA cupping, flavor, acidity, body, other ones.
Acidity, body, flavor.
Do you think about one of those more than the other when you're dialing in a roast? Do you think more about acidity over the specific flavors you're trying to pull out? I feel like with people that don't have a lot of experience in coffee, they always think that we're trying to pull out like that blueberry note, or we're trying to, you know what I'm talking about? When we're like dialing in espresso, it's like we need to pull out more of that graham cracker note. We need that. So we're going to, but it's like we don't really think about it that way.
Yeah.
So do you think about body a lot, or do you think about
Mouthfeel. Sorry.
Well,
He's not
honestly,
big on
I've started
mouthfeel.
challenging my philosophy on this because I've had some darker roasted coffees recently that I enjoyed quite a bit. So when I'm dialing, I'm paying attention mostly to, I guess you could call it flavor notes, but it's just like, it is more so like how I think, I'm paying attention mostly to how I think the roast is affecting the taste of the coffee.
Yeah.
And so that expresses in all of those fields, in acidity, in flavor notes, in mouthfeel. It affects all of it. And there are trends to where it's like over roasted coffee. Those three categories are affected the same way pretty much regardless of what the coffee that is over roasted is.
Yeah.
I pay attention mostly. It's like I'm mostly paying attention to flavor notes and how clear it feels like the flavor of the coffee is. I don't pay attention that much to mouthfeel. With some Central American coffees or like Kenya's and Rwanda's, I will pay attention to the acidity because those can just get really bright.
Right.
And so sometimes there's been a lot of variance in how I profile like Kenyan coffees compared to like other origins in my experience. So those I pay attention to the acidity more because it can kind of be like the best part of those like coffees, or it can just be the part that makes it impossible to drink is the acidity of those, I feel like.
We'll have to have you on another time just to do A to Z walkthrough of what is going through your mind in a roast, like start to finish. But when it comes to the Torre, you said it started green, had like a grassy thing going on, and then earlier you said it was most improved coffee. Can you think about some of the roasting adjustments that you made to get from green to great? Follow-up question. I know music, right? You got a music background. In sound, if something's not sounding good, a little quick fix is to scoop the mids. Does that have anything to do with the roasting curve? Would you ever scoop the mids of your roasting curve?
David Funk, please weigh
Dude.
in.
Oh my god!
Asking for a
You
friend.
need a multi-band compressor for those minutes.
Or would you ever run your roast curve through the lexicon?
Do you even
No.
remember the first question?
The second question
yes.
was so stupid. It made me forget the first question.
First question was, how did I get so awesome?
Yeah.
What did you change about Torre?
Dude, it is a very delicate coffee, even compared to Ethiopia's.
What does that mean?
When it gets put into the roaster, it just it can't hold any heat. It has a very low like thermal capacity compared to other coffees. So like a roaster at 300 degrees might heat one batch of coffee. This is totally arbitrary. The measurements I'm giving have nothing to do with what I look at.
Write
but
this
it's like,
down.
People are going
people,
to
write this
destroy
down.
you.
dude, it's like one coffee here. The roast curve, the bean temperature, the ROR is lower than it is with Ethiopia at the same charge temp. Ethiopia would reach a higher temperature faster, even though the roaster has the same thermal energy.
So it's like aluminum foil.
I don't know.
Are you saying this specific
like-
coffee isn't as dense?
As
Is that what you would say?
aluminum foil?
It has a lower density?
It has a lower thermal capacity, bro. Like 10 pounds versus 10 pounds of a different coffee. Ethiopia gets hotter faster because it just absorbs heat.
But then it
faster.
loses it?
So it's just a
Quicker?
lower density.
Okay.
It's simple.
Yes, lower density.
Yeah. Like
So,
aluminum foil.
What the
Dude,
heck, bro?
I could explain it, but no one cares.
but it
Don't-
wouldn't make sense.
No, it would make sense.
That's for the next program.
So
The similarities of aluminum foil and Ethiopia's Torre.
by
With
Ross
Ross
Walters. Edit this part out. Seriously.
So I was basically the first couple times I roasted it, it just roasted way too quickly.
Yeah.
The RR was higher than I wanted it. The bean temperature was higher than I wanted it at the time of roast. And so the development phase, the browning phase, they both were just like totally off. And the coffee just was green. There wasn't any sweetness. It didn't have time to have like any amount of that like black tea or those like sweet notes. It tasted a little bit like green coffee, and that was it.
Yeah.
And so I just stretched it out the best I could. I like literally charge it lower. The charge temp for that coffee is lower than any coffee I've ever roasted here by like a lot.
Low and slow, baby.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I don't know how much hard numbers matter, but it's like a dev time of like 210 to 220. Whereas the first one, because it was a light coffee, I did like 202 dev time. Stretching out the dev time, 10, 15 seconds makes a huge difference. And the middle phase being like 5:05 to like 5:15 at the max. You start losing some of that like sweetness, and the body starts getting more hollow past like a 5 minute, 20 second middle phase, in my opinion. And that's just because it's like the reason I know these things about Torre is because it's like I make small mistakes, and some days it was like raining and cold the night before, and I charge it at the same temperature on a dry night. And then the roast is slow, and the middle phase is 5 minutes and 20 seconds or 5 minutes and 25 seconds, and then everything else is normal. And then I cup that coffee the next day, and I know what it tastes like. And I also think about like when I roast a coffee, I look at it, and while I'm roasting it, and also after the fact, I like think about what I expect that coffee to taste like.
Yep.
And then I compare how it tastes to my expectation, and I try to learn.
Yeah.
Wow.
Did you ever roast on any of the drum roasters that we've roasted on over the years?
No, dude.
Okay. So the loring is all that you've known.
Yeah.
How do you like working on the loring?
It's great. It's pretty embarrassing that it's the only roaster I've ever roasted on, because
Yeah, it's super embarrassing.
anyone I ever talk to about it, they're like, dude, that's so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, that's what everyone says.
That's all
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, I feel like it's great. I don't have any I don't have difficulties with it unless I'm like troubleshooting technical issues. No offense.
Right. How does it work? Like you're just adjusting temperature, right?
Literally just adjusting the gas.
The-
The percentage open that the gas valve is all I adjust. And the like starting conditions of a roast, like charge temp and like initial burner percentage.
Why does it sound like a jet engine when it's coming on?
Because it has some...
No.
Please,
Oh, I
please.
thought Sam was our
I'm
guest.
so excited to talk about this that I just can't control myself.
It has these really, really high-powered industrial fans to keep everything circulating, and it has to just like completely purge the machine so that it doesn't explode.
Because it's
Burning
running on
gas.
convection too. That's
Yeah.
why it needs the fans to blow the hot air into the drum.
Does it blow cold air ever, or just only like varying degrees of hot air?
I mean, it's room temperature in the morning.
Okay, so yeah, so
You can inject cold air into it, but that's only super. Maybe we could play with this, but that's only super applicable for, like, you can leave the coffee at the end of a roast, leave the coffee in the drum and inject cool air into it. But that's if you're like roasting the second crack and you don't want to smoke up the room. So it'll like flush out the initial
see.
smoke, and then you drop your coffee.
yeah.
But we don't really do that.
So first crack, right?
Tell me more.
Can you? I'm just off the top of the dome right now. Okay, this is things that people want to know.
Okay.
What is first crack? I know we're running out of time. What is first crack, and can you hear it crack?
I've got dibs on the next question. Ross is hijacking this program.
I'm just a curious.
Dude, first crack is the point in the roast when the water that is stored. Okay, so coffee bean
Coffee's a fruit.
is
first of all.
it's a fruit, and
Coffee?
the coffee
Alone.
bean is the seed. You know what's inside seeds?
No
Water.
Tell me.
Water.
Water.
Okay, sorry, I'll make this more concise. There's water inside, and when you roast the bean, it is a solid structure, and the cell walls don't allow water to escape, and it's a rigid structure, nothing can get out. The water evaporates within the bean. When the bean boils, like reaches the boiling point, 212 degrees and beyond, the water inside will start to evaporate, and the pressure from the steam that's created grows as the temperature increases until the bean literally splits open and the water vapor is released.
Like popcorn.
It is.
So that's first crack.
That's first crack. You can... Sometimes I hear things that I'm like, is that first crack? But usually this thing's just like,
Pouring is very loud.
Back to the jet engine.
yeah.
So my question for you is, what's the single area where you have changed Valor's roast curves the most since, the system that I would say I kind of developed
yeah.
and handed to Dale. Dale and I developed together.
And me.
And you?
Single-handedly
Yeah,
most
yeah,
of
you
it.
were
You
there.
were just there.
How have you changed the way we roast coffee? Is there one area you can point to that's like, I changed this a
Great
lot?
question, Riley.
It's pretty good.
And who do you think you are to take the privilege to do something like that?
The thing that I've changed is, really the thing that comes to mind is just like cupping really, really frequently. No offense.
Zoom.
That has definitely just made it possible. It's also just like the same philosophy, I think, carrying over from the cafe of like, when someone's like, I point at you because you've said this to me of like asking someone, they're like, here's an espresso, and it's like you ask someone at the cafe, you're like, what do you know what that tastes like? And they're like, no, and you're like, why? And it's like, because I haven't tasted it, and it's like, okay, it's kind of similar thing. So that helps me know what to change as far as like actual how I profile or how I onboard coffees. I haven't changed very much. There are coffees that we still have, like the Brazil Peaberry, that I profile it a bit different than Dale did, but I've also changed the profile on that thing like a lot. So
How and why?
well, it's actually interesting because I think part of it might have to do with the seasonality of the coffee and like when you're approaching, the post 6 month part of it being green coffee still. I think that you probably just have to like reprofile. It might even be worth just reprofiling every quarter for a coffee that you're going to have a lot, just with aging and like moisture changes or whatever happens, just all the variables.
And that's the coffee we roast the most of by a lot.
Yeah.
Like
By like
twice or 3 times. More than
yeah,
every
of
other
everything
coffee.
else. Yeah. So definitely I changed it. Sometimes I changed the length of the development phase. Most recently, I've like decreased it by like 8 seconds, and I've increased the middle phase by like 10 seconds ish, 8 to 10 seconds.
And you see significant change.
Yeah. So with the Peaberry, it was
crazy.
like developing a lot. The dev time on the previous one, it was just getting really roasty, starting to taste hollow, starting to taste like kind of carbony, in my opinion. And I didn't like it. But when I would like develop it less, it would just taste really acidic and bright. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of tricky, but there's a happy medium, and I can definitely tell like cupping it when it's done well, yeah. Or if it like needs to be different.
Wow, that's over.
The moment you guys have been waiting for, our review of Big Face Coffee. How was opening this package, Ross?
I really enjoyed looking at it with my eyes and my brain. And then when I tried to open it, it was kind of hard to do. You have to pull a little tab to get the thing open. Very hard to do.
The tab here, or
The tab on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you got a video of it. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's linked below or not. But,
it's probably overlaid, yeah.
well, it might be linked below too. But
It does perfectly rip. You gotta
Oh
give them
yeah,
that.
that is nice. Little
Yeah, that's hot.
post rip aesthetic.
Right through the name.
Yeah, but it's like a vibe.
But it's a
No,
vibe.
in a good way.
Yeah,
Right through the
you,
name.
And then-
you said
the UX of the bag itself was super rough. Tactically speaking, visually it looks awesome, but yeah,
You can do it upside down too.
oh my goodness.
It's got branding for days. That bag's got stuff all over it. Every side's got stuff all over it.
It really is like that. They don't have it looks like all their internal bags are the same
Okay.
because there's nothing about the coffee on the internal bag, so similar to us in that way. And then all the boxes are the same, and they just have a label.
Wow.
Yep.
So we're calibrated. Oh, and it corners.
And it corners.
Hey, a lot of do you think that you don't think they?
They took all of their inspiration. I mean, they definitely have the whole like cheeky one-liners all over the box
Yep.
which we also
Contains smile matter.
TM.
Trademark.
Yeah.
May cause involuntary happiness. We have liftoff, lift to release smile matter, all systems go, lift to release smile matter, the uncommon, in common, big face. I think that means independent origin.
Isolated origin.
Isolated origin.
Filter.
So single origin.
Filter. Yes.
Nice.
Man, there's just so much.
What does this one say? Oh, that's just instructions.
Yeah.
Oh no, lift to release.
Yeah, they both say the same thing on the sides.
Yeah.
So that's all nuts. I do want to make a note about this coffee and say that its return address was Bentonville, Arkansas. And I think we all know what that means, which is awesome because Onyx roasts amazing coffee. If I am spreading fake news like I typically do for my own personal gain,
Intentionally.
then please let me know in the comments. But I am sure a cursory search of the interweb would show that this coffee is a white labeled Onyx coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Onyx sells this coffee?
No, I bet they don't.
They don't need to.
Yeah.
They're good.
But yeah, let's really dive into it. Content out of 10 of the box.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 9.
7.
I didn't answer. I didn't know that's how we were doing it.
All right, so it's an 8.
Yeah. No paragraph or like details about the coffee specifically on here. And it's just all flair over function, I would say.
Yep.
For sure.
It's all branding.
But it's really good branding. So that's kind of why I went high.
Yeah.
Okay, next category.
I will say this box is trendy. And I know that just like all packaging is trendy and gets recycled, but I feel like this is going to have a pretty short shelf life before they change it up.
No doubt.
Aesthetic out of 10. 1, 2, 3,
8.
10.
What'd you say?
I said 7, but now I feel dumb.
No, you're not
No,
dumb.
stick to your guns.
Did you say 9?
I said 8.
I said 9.
Okay, so we had 7, 8,
9.
9, 10. So
So
8.5.
Yeah.
Super fun.
Yeah. The reflective stuff's awesome.
Is that enough?
UX.
Out of 5?
Yeah.
I can't rate this. I didn't use it.
Right.
All right, Ross.
Ross, UX score.
Can you count me down?
1, 2, 3.
2.
Dude, you're supposed to go on 5.
Savage.
You also counted them up.
1, 2.
Mainly just because of the rips.
All the
were
rips.
So bad.
Yeah. I mean, I had to grab scissors. The rips on the bag, it broke. Once I ripped it, it still didn't open. I cut it. The zipper is trash. But it looks cool.
Yeah.
And the coffee tastes good.
All right. Flavor out of 10. 1, 2, 3, 8.
7.
8.
So we're gonna go with an 8. Any thoughts on it? What was the note? What were the notes? here?
Pomelo, baby.
The pomelo was
In the
there.
It was
gooseberry.
there, yeah.
It just tasted
Yeah.
like grapefruit. For
Yeah, it was
sure.
great.
Tart, bitter, good bitter. Not all
Little bit of
bitter's
sweet
bad,
tart
guys.
action.
Not all bitter's bad.
Yeah.
I didn't love the espresso, but I think that was on us because this coffee is so freaking light.
Yeah.
That we just couldn't pull great EK shots of it.
It was zeroed out, and then we had to even calibrate it, our EK down even more to get it like chirping, to get it to pull in like at least 23 seconds. But the one, I think the espresso that I used for the cappuccino was a little better. Which is always lame. I think it's more the EK and all that grind retention. The fact that I did the exact same thing, but the shots were 3 seconds apart.
Mm-hmm. How about enjoyability out of 10? 1, 2, 3, 7.
9.
Wow.
What'd you say?
9.
Me too.
9987.
What did you find enjoyable about it?
It was.
Did we even say that this coffee was from Burundi
We have not said
at
that.
any
or
point?
it's a washed Burundi, right?
Yeah.
Wash
That's funny.
Burundi.
I mean, just for a wash Burundi, I'm expecting like an acid bomb.
Yeah.
But it was a really, excuse me, it was a really pleasant acidity.
Yeah.
Great sweetness, drinkable but complex.
Yeah.
I mean,
agree.
that's kind of all you can ask for.
I couldn't agree more, Ross. I wish I had more of my pour over.
It's not, yeah,
Same.
it's, I mean, we can always make
I'm probably
more.
going to make more of this whenever we close.
Dude, make enough for me.
Especially for such a light coffee. Like, in light of our earlier conversation, when you were dialing in Torre, it was so green that the acidity was just like terribly too high, right? I mean, like acidity is like through the roof. So for it to be so light and the acidity to be so balanced with the sweetness is like bravo, Onyx.
Big
Allegedly.
Sorry,
Crunch.
I'm about to break my teeth.
Not bad.
Let's go crunch. 1, 2,
It's just out of 5.
1, 2, 3, 5.
Wow.
Let's go crunch.
Did you say 4?
Yeah.
3 4s and a
That
5?
tastes exactly like the pour over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a great crunch. It's very tasty. I gotta have like 500 milligrams of caffeine just in those.
Dude, one thing about you and Luke being in the warehouse is that you guys will drink coffee anytime it's made. So every time I make a pour over, you guys say, "Hey, can I have some?"
Yeah, I know. That's the tax.
The tax. This coffee scored a 39 out of 50. That's one of our higher rated coffees for sure.
Great.
So bravo, Onyx. You get the Valor stamp of... Sorry. Bravo, Big Face. You get the Valor stamp of approval. Can't not do it. We're going to be wrong. There's
I
just
know.
Like, they're going to have a headquarters in Bentonville.
You're gonna get ripped to shreds.
Maybe the real estate's just cheap out there.
Maybe Walmart's roasting it.
Yeah, Walmart's out there. Aren't
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
They do good work sometimes.
It was a great coffee.
Sam, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you,
Hey,
Sam.
It's
thanks,
always a pleasure to
guys.
have you. We got to do this more often. I think the last time we had you on, we just got you to come and just like tell us things about coffee. We need to do another one of those. You just need to figure out something crazy. And
We'll wear our dunce hat.
and we'll just be the idiots because, I mean, we don't know anything about coffee and it shows by our Instagram reels.
Yeah.
Well, you know enough to lie.
We just know how to intentionally mislead people.
Intentionally mislead. Yeah, you're right.
Sam, get back to work.
Get out of here.
Oh, man.
All right.
Seriously, guys.
We'll
we
see
really
you-
got to get back to work.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see you guys on the next episode of the Valor Coffee Podcast. Like, rate, review, comment, share, Instagram at Valor Coffee Pod. We love you. Bye.